welcome to the Appalachian Creative Podcast. I am Jacob Holmes. I'm here with Jerry Buckner. And Jerry, why don't you tell us who we've got on deck today?
Joining us today, we've got J.D. Belcher. J.D. Belcher is a filmmaker from Southern West Virginia. We've been following him for quite a while. J.D., thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate you all bearing with me on the remote access. It's very handy. I wish I could be there with you, but hopefully one day we get to meet in person. But really, I've looked forward to this all day. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. So before we get into it, tell us kind of where you're based, a little bit about yourself, and kind of how you got into film and everything you do.
Sure. So we got a few different versions. I'll kind of do the sped up version, but based in Southern West Virginia. And actually I started out doing, typical route, dropping out of college in about, that was about 2004, I believe. I dropped out twice and didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And I joined the coal mines. So became a surface coal miner for 9 years of my life and made a lot of money and had a lot of depression. And I wanted to kind of teach myself how to make a zombie movie. Walking Dead came out in 2012. So I started teaching myself on YouTube and learning everything I could. And thankfully, a year after I started learning, I would go upstairs on my off time from work and teach myself different things and started my 10,000 hours in. And
YouTube University.
Someone trusted me and yeah. YouTube University. Hey, it's a real thing. Yeah. It's Film Riot is the channel that I lived on.
Good stuff.
But yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying YouTube. That's where I went as well. So
yeah, they got some good professors. But Film Riot was huge. Andrew Kramer with Video Copilot was huge on the VFX realm. What was it called? Indie film or indie? I can't remember. There's an indie something film channel that had so many tutorials, but Film Riot was the big one. Ryan Connolly and his brother Josh really taught me everything. And so that zombie movie never came to fruition, but I was able to quit coal mining and take a huge pay cut and no insurance for a few months to make car commercials. And that was in 2013. So I did that for 3 years. And then I met a guy there named Corey Frazier, who is our art director at JJN Multimedia now. And we actually quit our jobs on the same day together with no clients. And that was in 2016. So, fast forward to now, we had no clients then. Now we have over 30 retainer clients that we do work for on a monthly basis. We have a team of 8 that's employed full-time. They all make median household income. They all have benefits, more PTO probably than anyone almost in West Virginia. I'd bet money that they have the most PTO in West Virginia. But so yeah, we've done work for probably over 150 organizations across the nation. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, So that's kind of the sped up version.
I like that you said we have clients that we work for, because you're self-employed, but you still work for somebody, which is a common misconception in the self-employment world, that you just don't get to work for anybody when you quit your job.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. What I did was I hired people way smarter than me. And if you do that, eventually you're going to be phased out of decisions. And I'm not going to lie, it's very nice lending your trust in a team that I literally couldn't do anything without. Yeah. So I think because of that, I try to make sure and grow, like they get rewarded with me. Mm-hmm. So we do things like we have a profit sharing model, and now we have a 401k match program. We have all the things that people need to survive. So it's thankfully worked out. Our turnover hasn't been bad, and I don't think technically anyone really hasn't left in a long time. It's been a few years. So
you
I'm just grateful.
let's get so film. You have a couple projects in the works where we'll let you hit on those. But you mentioned in your media agency, you hire people that are more, I believe you said, more talented than you are in certain aspects. That's something that Jerry and I have talked a lot about as far as being a director on a film set, is know a lot about a little and then hire the people that know more
that can complement you.
Yeah, to lead those different departments on a set. So do you follow that same sort of model when you're getting into your filmmaking?
Yeah.
And then what would you say is your favorite thing to do on set?
Yeah, for sure. So it's a multifaceted question because being self-taught, it teaches you how to do a lot of things. And eventually, if you let your ego get in the way, you will try to do too much and the project's going to suffer because of it. I'll admit early on, I would look at other people's work and be like, I could do that. Why are they hiring those people? I could want, and I started saying, wait, that doesn't make sense because these people are probably the people that I would be best friends with in school. We have more in common with these people than anyone else. So I decided to start lifting people up and appreciating their input and also checking my ego at the door and just being like, things actually, it's a collaborative medium. Mm-hmm. So when I started releasing a lot of those things and trusting others to do it, I found that not only was the product better, but I was mentally stable.
Yeah, making you better.
Like,
right.
I would. Yeah. I would not spend all that bandwidth trying to put my efforts into things that would end up being mediocre than what they turned out to be.
Yeah,
with them on board.
Yeah, something that I ran into whenever I had my solo business, mainly freelance, did some independent work, but man, it was just so draining creatively to have to prospect, have to propose, close, then you have to record, then you have to edit, then doing everything by myself got to be just too much. It was, burnout. I was focusing so much on one thing, I was missing things on the other, and so being able to put a team around you, I'm sure it would helped. Just because, man, this industry and this craft is not something that can be done alone.
Right.
Yeah. And logistics specifically is where it helped because our producer that's on the team, Katie Washington, she's hyper organized. So having her to just step in on that pre-production, we still have small crews. Like everything I do commercially will not have more than 3 people, including myself. So, and those are typically like grips, like they'll put up lights, like literally we'll put up light stands, put up sound, they'll run sound, and then I'll shoot everything. And then I'll have, an extra shooter if it's a long day, so they'll run around. And I kind of trained them on what our stuff looks like, and it's really, really streamlined now. So even still, we have a pretty small crew. But for everything else, like we do websites, we do graphic design, we do, social media management. Like I don't have anything to do with none of that. So where I stepped in was building the process for these things and kind of looking at it like, well, here's the package I want to offer. Think of it like a mortgage, and then they kind of pick off a menu what they want, and we know how long it takes us for each service, so our price is set in stone and there's no questions, and it's kind of really fluid. And then they learn the process. We built the business on what's called traction. Y'all, I don't know if y'all have heard of it, but it's the entrepreneurial operating system, the EOS system. And it literally changed everything. So our entire business is set up on that model. And everyone knows it. Everyone understands it. It has things like running weekly meetings, setting rocks is what they're called, which is basically quarterly goals, which are things that are outside of your daily tasks. So you get the tasks done. The way it's explained to me is you have a mason jar and you put all these rocks in it, which are your goals. Well, you fill it up first with sand, which are your daily tasks. And then when you get that, you have these rocks, which are ways to improve your position with the company. Like, for instance, somebody that's a graphic designer could want to learn how to 3D model or something that quarter. So that's just how our business is set up to where I don't really have to do. I mean, this sounds bad, but I put, main hours that I put into it are making videos. It's not really building processes anymore.
Right.
So
I actually did the same thing when I was doing my business full time. I had those meetings with the team and had the quarterly stuff, but I was just a one-man operation, so it was just it was really easy to get those done, I would like to say that I also am a good boss of myself.
Well, and coming from car sales, you would spend 8 to 10 hours working a car deal from start to finish. But because of all the processes put in place, it was very easy. You weren't selling a car for 10 hours. You were pulling the customer along that process. And I couldn't function without having an implemented set of processes. And so dialing that in is important. Beyond your team, beyond having processes, there's a quote, what is it? Everything you want is just past hard. What struggles did you face initially that maybe would have caused you to hang up, but you pushed through?
Sure, yeah. So this is weird and it's not typical, but early on and all the way through, I've always had the sense of what's next. And we were grateful to capitalize on certain opportunities that spiderwebbed into so many more opportunities. And then when I'd get to those opportunities, I'd maximize it. We had a lot of years where we nailed a lot of work. And doing that really created this, this web of just inquiries that ultimately turned into, okay, we have a great clientele base. What can we do now? I'm going to extend services. So first thing we offered was video and web. And our art director now worked on contract for a long time. So I guess the hardest thing would be establishing those new services. But I was probably overly confident. Like, I like risk. And thankfully, I had a sugar mama at the house that was like, I'm tired of hearing your mouth. Like,
if it gets you out of the house, go do it.
Yeah, go get it done. Shut up. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to pay the bills. And then I said, okay, well, trust me. I know I'm spending all this money, but it's going to work out. And it could have crashed and burned. But thankfully, along the way, we just kept running into opportunities and really good people. And what helped us there was establishing core values.
And letting the work speak for itself.
Yeah, that too. I mean, and now granted, people say you need to have a sales process, and that's probably true. I personally never really developed one. I just did great work, and then, one project turned into 3, turned into 6, turned into, 4, turned into 12 or whatever. And it's probably not the wisest way to build something, but thankfully the drive and the passion that I had made it impossible for it to fail, because the way I saw it was like, well, I'm never going to stop. I got sugar mama here paying my truck payment. She's giving me insurance. So I'm just going to forge ahead and we're going to see what happens. And, somehow it's working out so far. We're on year 9. Yeah, this will be year 9. So,
gotcha.
So yeah, and it ended up getting easier as we went, but there was always something else. Like I'd be like, okay, well, we're comfortable. Let me see how I can throw a wrench in it.
Well, that's growth, and sometimes, growth is uncomfortable.
Sure. Yeah.
And
it got to a point where I oversold sometimes. So that was the difficulty of reeling me in from overselling things outside of our capacity.
Now, I worked for a year and a half, 2 years, almost exactly 2 years. No, I'm sorry, exactly 2 years. I quit my job 2 years after to the day that my company started. I could look back and find one client. There was one client that was just always there. She was always willing to pay. We've shouted her out on the podcast before, Jessica Huff. She was great. And without her, my business would not have grown to what it eventually was. And ultimately, I would not have learned that I don't like being self-employed. I don't like that mental stressor, Is there a client or a business or whoever that you can look back on in your 8 or 9 years that is the reason that you're where you're at? Whether it's a retainer or a one-time or...
There's a few of them.
Yeah.
There's a few of them. And
You don't have to shout them out if you don't want to.
No, I'll shout them out. Listen, I'm proud. I'm proud of these relationships we've built, but also I'm proud of who these people are because they took a chance on a dork with a camera that said, I got all these good ideas, and they were like, well, okay. I mean, the videos look pretty cool. Let's see what you can do, So one was Little General Stores, and they have a bunch of convenience stores across the state, and literally they were our first client, and actually, Corey was doing work for them on a contractual basis, and Corey wasn't on salary the first year and a half. And then eventually we got to where I was like, okay, Corey, I think I'm ready to fire up salaries. And it was January 1st, 2018 was his first day of salary employment. And because of that, we absorbed Little General into JJN, and they kept us going early on, but also not only them, Coalfield Development was one of our first clients.
Okay.
They do a lot of nonprofit work in the state, and the same deal. Brandon Dennison took a chance on me just going to West Edge Factory in West Huntington, and it was like, yeah, well, y'all do pretty good work. Y'all build websites? Okay, well, here's an RFP. Here's this. Here's that. And early on, they took a shot on us on these really big projects, and thankfully, me and Corey used to work. He worked at the newspaper, and he built websites in the evening. So he was working 16-hour shifts for like a year.
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy. And eventually, we got to, it was like, okay, here's what we can pay for a salary. And he wanted a little more sustainability. He wanted to leave the paper. And we just thought it was time, like, all right, let's hit the ground running and see what's going. So them, and then MCMB Banks is a huge one that took a chance on us early. We still do work for all these people. We have with video work, and they've added services over the years. So they've been really, really good to us. But, the McDowell County CVB was an early client. I mean, so many, If I sat here, I could sit and name all 31 of our clients, and they're all amazing.
Well, I think that speaks to the relationships that you build with them. Being able to look at them as more than just a client or more than just a customer, but somebody, hey, I want to build a relationship with you and truly help your business. I think a lot of videographers, I think, fall short on that side of things. They're very talented with the camera. Maybe they even have some sales skills, but they maybe lack in
connection.
Yeah, connecting with those clients and truly getting them what they want out of their campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Yeah, I relate to that big time because early on I said, you know what? What is different about me than other people? Now, this isn't necessarily true. It's just my observation of like the product. And I said, well, I think it'd be really good if someone had the most fun experience, like regardless of what this video ends up looking like. I know I want to always be the nicest person in the room. I want to realize they're hiring me and their opinions matter. It doesn't matter if they've ever shot one video with an iPhone. Their opinions matter to what their mission is. I wanted to make sure that I held them up over us, because ultimately they're doing the groundwork, and that's the hardest part. I get to exploit their quality work to make this awesome video.
Yeah.
And hopefully this video will bring more people to their awesome work.
That's a great way of looking at it. I get to exploit their work for this video.
It reminds me
mentality
of that Zig Ziglar quote of, you can have everything you want in life if you help enough people get what they want. And that's the mentality that I take into every interaction. What can I bring to you that is going to be good for both of us?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because if someone goes in and, I haven't met many of these people, but you'll tend to run into an ego every so often. I haven't ran into many in West Virginia, I'll be honest. But if someone goes in and they are kind of shut down by someone who would be like, well, I'm the professional, so obviously you don't know what you're talking about. So here's what you need to do. I tried to avoid that and just say, okay, but also offer my opinions of like, hey, that's a really good idea that you have. Actually, here's a way we could possibly shoot that and inflate that idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of the personable experience actually has probably got us more work and retained more clients than the actual video. I mean, obviously we want the video to be good, but I know for a fact I can take the Pepsi challenge with my experience with probably anyone in the tri-state, and we'll at least be close. If that makes sense.
Maya Angelou said people, and this is what the third quote of this episode so far. This is weird, but you said
quote machine,
right? It's one of my favorites, and it was something that my company Eagle Eye Productions really strived for when we did client work. People won't remember what you say to them; they won't remember what you do to them, but they'll always remember how you make them feel. And that's exactly that. They're not remembering your video. They're remembering that you were a great guy to work with and your team was friendly and you got them what they wanted.
Well, and when I was selling cars, it was, hey, here's this cool feature. But what sold the car was, man, you're going to feel this with you're going down the road with your family. And so, again, putting that feeling into it made that sale that much easier.
I can't wait to pay off my car in March. I hate car salesmen. Right? That's what he told me, and I stuck with his stupid payment. Not him. He didn't tell me that.
I was going to say, I don't remember selling you a car.
The car salesman told me that. Sorry, we got off track.
But no, I mean,
no.
You have to tie a feeling to it in terms of sales. In my opinion, that's when things get fun, is whenever you're able to tie somebody else's fantasies into reality.
Sure.
Yeah. I relate to that. And I noticed too, like in car sales, which I just made the commercials, but I would personally notice salesmen, the ones who would do better are the ones that would sell 12 cars to a family and not just get, a big fish or whatever it was called on that one payment. Because eventually they're going to be upset and they won't come back to this,
And how am I going to trade you out of it?
Yeah. The people that, of course, they want to make money. Everybody wants to make money, but they would really value the experience and knowing that, okay, well, I want to pull this family in for the rest of my career.
Yep.
And then eventually you would have a clientele established to where literally you didn't have to make one phone call.
Well, and you didn't want to be a car guy. You wanted to be their car guy. And so that's how I always approached it. Man, if I take good care of you on this one, you're probably going to tell somebody else, and you're going to tell somebody else. That spider web effect that you talked about, that was it quality over content, because I sold a bunch of cars, and I was taking pictures. I was doing some things like that, but I wasn't marketing Jerry Buckner and was still able to make things happen. And again, that's that consistency. That's putting the customer first. Those are mentalities in sales that are going to pull through in any industry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
very relatable.
Switching gears from media agency to filmmaking.
Okay.
Tell us about what you have. So you said you didn't get that first one off the ground. Have you had something made, and then do you have anything that you're currently working on?
Oh, I have a YouTube channel that I will never tell anyone what it's called that has about 32 videos that I made during that first year. That is the most special thing I've probably ever done. And with those videos, we did a lot of things that doesn't translate to the nonprofit world or the client world. Involved a lot of gore, a lot of different things, but had so much fun doing these things. And that's one thing I realized during this journey. I love the client work, but it's one thing that I let slip by was that initial spark of like, oh, what if we tried to do this or that or whatever it was. That's just completely insane. Like I did a thumb wrestling, a serious thumb wrestling tournament that was to the death. And that was before I started JJM Multimedia. And it's the dumbest, funnest thing I've ever done. And so I was like, we're in a stable moment now with JJN. I kind of want to play with that again because, like I mentioned, a lot of the processes are set up, so I have a lot of free time. And it's not that I don't work. I still work, but everything I have to do gets done relatively quickly. So being a caterpillar trying to sprout a butterfly eventually, I have to keep doing stuff. So I decided to start eventually Creepalachia, which is completely unaffiliated. Listen, unaffiliated with JJM Multimedia. This has nothing to do with it. But basically, the idea started as I want to interview Appalachians who have darker, eerie experiences of life. Like it could range from I saw a UFO in Appalachia to I had a near-death experience to true crime, which we're doing a lot of right now with a trial going on in West Virginia. So it was just a way for me to kind of see if I can take the fourth step at a new life.
Yeah.
I want to keep the life I have. I love it, but I want to see if I can do something a little more. So that's kind of how Creepalachia was started. So, with that, I have several ideas. We have, I don't know, I think we have nearly 20 interviews on record now, and we've just been going 2 months. And it's been growing very substantially, and I'm hitting a lot of numbers early that I wasn't realizing that I would. And with that, I want to also make short films every year that are Appalachian horror-based stories. And that's kind of what we're working on now with the Mothman Prophets, which we officially released that we are in full pre-production mode as of yesterday.
That's awesome.
Would these short films be like documentaries or narratives?
Oh, this is a narrative. This is I wrote a script and they're doing lines and we're doing like stunts and all kinds of stuff.
Well, we have had someone, and I'm just doing it for consistency's sake at this point, that told me documentaries are not real movies. So when you're editing this, go to my camera and say, for all you people out there, documentaries are also real movies.
Now,
yes.
So you've got Creepalachia. You mentioned The Walking Dead is kind of what spurred that whole thing. And so is sci-fi horror, is that your favorite genre? Is that what you lean into?
I mean, I love it. I tell you what I love is the 80s. And you mentioned documentary films. I did make a full-length feature about boxing club in Welch. I grew up in McDowell County. It's very, very special to me. But it's actually on Amazon. It's called Corner to Fighter Story. And that was such a special time, but also did a podcast about Upper Big Branch, a mine disaster that occurred.
Okay.
It's called UBB, a coal miner story. So documentaries are definitely films, and I love them.
Yeah,
I've said I wasn't going to say his name on this podcast, but take that.
Well, I want to. So I want to say something real quick.
Sure.
I worked at a gas. It was my first job in West Virginia. Was working at a gas station, and there were several characters that would come in and out of this gas station. Being 18, I always had to close it, so I was always there late. But I mean, I've had several people tell me Bigfoot stories of waiting on a school bus and seeing all the trees move and just feeling the presence of something big in your area. I'm big into government conspiracies, especially in terms of West Virginia and what can be hidden under mountains. And the fact that we have so many mountains, that's a lot of things, a lot of places to hide stuff. I've had people explain they've been hunting in, up Dolly Sod's area, and they've watched mountains open up and platforms raise and then close, and just weird things like that.
Heck yeah.
So I'm curious to
like
see.
You mentioned,
Send them JD's way.
No, I'm curious to see what stories you're able to pull out. Because you mentioned that it's still a very fresh podcast. You've had a lot of people on, and there are a lot of those experiences in Appalachia.
there is so much, and I tell you what. So I kind of had to. I was like, well, okay, this initial guest list is going to be tough because I got to talk them into something that doesn't really exist yet. So they're like, it's kind of weird. I got to come to your house and like go in this dank room and like talk to you. So I knew that was my first hurdle, and I think we've crossed it. But my first interview was actually my father-in-law, and he was a coal miner for over 40 years. And he said, I've got like 4 or 5 ghost stories. And he's like, I actually seen like a tragedy where a guy died on the shift. And I was like, all right, come on in, Poppy. Let's sit down. Let's talk,
Yeah.
So I done that one. And I was like, I was having fun. I still am having fun. But I mean, this was in early December, literally. I just started.
Yeah.
And I put it up and I made a little reel. And the reel was literally, I think it was, how much does a coal miner make? And I put it up, and it hit 300K on TikTok.
Wow.
And I was like, and that wasn't really, I mean, it was interesting, but you don't realize what people don't know about Appalachia. Right. So then I was like, okay, sleep paralysis, that'd be cool. So I put out a feeler on Facebook, and then someone's like, yeah, I have sleep paralysis. It's horrible. And I'm like, great, come on in.
There's a demon watches me sleep every night.
It does sound terrifying.
Yes, I mean that's exactly what happened. Jeez. And so it was great. Plus she was an author, so we kind of get into their backstory and all this stuff. And then I was like, okay, well, the drones are big right now. I know a drone guy. His name's Tom Reiser. He's like the all-time, Southern West Virginia drone guy to me. So I'll ask him. He's got a really good radio voice. Super awesome dude. He was like, yeah, man, I've been following the Jersey drones. I'll come in and I'll bring this timeline and we can do 2.5 hours. I was like, yeah, let's do it. So he comes in. We do that. I have a buddy. It's like, man, I saw 3 orbs in my room for like 4 hours. I was like, yes, that fits. Come on in. So that's just kind of and we had a guy who was in cornered. He was like, I actually shot a dude that was trying to rob me. I was like, yep, that fits. Come on in. So that's kind of how we're growing. And then after episodes started posting, people I know would reach out and be like, hey, so I had like an exorcism on my house that I was kind of renovating. And like, I don't know if this fits. I'm like, yes, that is awesome. So he came in, we done 2.5 hours. And then I'm like, well, I want to try and break some stigmas with it too. So I would say, okay, well, what's a stigma in Appalachia? Drug use. Okay, let me find someone who's a recovering addict that is willing to come in and tell me about their story. So I thankfully found a guy who's been recovered for 30 years, and I don't interview active addiction. I think that's wrong.
That's tough, yeah.
In my book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I felt good about this one, and he came in, we had a great conversation. He told me about when this guy, got blown away in a diner while he was eating eggs at a thing. And I'm like, and he was on mushrooms, and I was like, this is crazy. So that's kind of how it grew. But so there's all kinds of episodes. Like we made tarantula babies live in the studio the other day.
I saw the photos with you and the tarantulas. No, we're not doing that, Jacob.
I don't want to. We are on the same page.
I'm telling you, it was so fun. I wasn't expecting because then the tarantulas crawling up you and they got these pretty little eyes and they're looking at you. You know, I'm like, this is why I'm doing this. So it's kind of just growing ideas like that. We had a Andrew Smith, who's a representative for the Flatwoods Monster Museum, came in, told us all about the Flatwoods Monster. Stuff like that. And we're actually booked through April now. So once things started releasing, I'd say, hey, here's the show. And it has this professional format. And they're like, whoa, this is cool. Plus, you know, we pay interviews we don't pay interviews that are involving trials. Because I don't want someone to come in here and relay their story.
And then say I was paid for that.
Yeah. I don't feel right about that.
Like, you don't want to lose maybe some potential credibility with it. Yeah.
Sure, yeah, but everyone else, like, eventually, I'm definitely not making any now. But eventually, I want this to have a profit. So I want these people that came in and that come in to take a chance on the show to feel like they have a little ownership.
Yeah, they got stake in it.
Of their, at least their likeness. You know what I mean? Yeah. At least they got paid to be on it and to, you know, and it's all risk. So I'm investing in the show actively. I built this studio that wasn't cheap, which I know you probably can't see it. Yeah, I don't have that camera on. But yeah, I renovated the studio, putting all this cost into it. So that's the risk. But at the same time, I don't want to take advantage of their time.
We know what that's like.
So yeah, that's basically how. Yeah, for sure.
So so you're following these creepy stories.
Can you hear us?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, I can hear you.
So Creepalachia dives into these creepy stories. Do you have a favorite cryptid? Or a favorite story that you...
Oh, favorite's Mothman. Yeah.
Yeah, Mothman.
Favorite's Mothman, for sure.
Now, are there any out there that's like, nah, that's just too far-fetched? Like, is there a line that you draw in terms of what you believe in all of this?
I just kind of believe in everything and then just let it go from there. You know, I'm just like, but the thing about the Mothman, the Mothman Prophets is actually a kind of steering away from it's appreciating the lore, but it's kind of its own thing. You'll see what I mean when you watch it. It's not about the Silver Bridge or, you know, things like that. So I'm very excited about it, but I just love it all. I love the artwork people do and how much people get into it. I just think it's awesome. So yeah, they're all I'm big fans of all of them, but Mothman's definitely the favorite.
What's your favorite, Jerry?
Man, I don't know. I really like Bigfoot. Just because of the guy, that Bobo guy on Animal Planet who used to go and hunt for him. Man, he was a character, and I just loved watching him talk about Bigfoot and go out and try to, you know, get a glimpse of him. You know, to be that passionate about something.
Yeah, yeah. I like Bigfoot.
Yeah, for sure. And
Bigfoot.
the Harry and the Hendersons was great.
Yeah, that's John Lithgow at his best.
Bigfoot would probably be my favorite, but I don't know skinwalkers. Have you heard of those?
No.
Have you, JD?
Yeah, I've listened to some podcasts about skinwalkers.
I don't know what it is, but the TikToks and stuff that I see where they go, it's a skinwalker. I get into the rabbit. I don't believe in it, but like I'm fascinated by it, if that makes sense. I don't even know if that's a cryptid,
sure.
But yeah.
No, yeah, for sure. I'm trying to remember this podcast that I'm listening to. I'm a big Mr. Ballin fan. I don't know if y'all know who that is, but he's a really, really good podcaster and storyteller. And Wartime Stories is the one I'm thinking about, and they have a lot of great skinwalker stories on there. So I highly suggest that.
I'll have to look into that one.
Yeah, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I've never. But I believe in the supernatural. I'm a man of faith, JD, and so to believe in God, there's some supernatural there.
Of course,
the resurrection in and of itself is supernatural. So I don't deny the presence of evil spirits and entities in our life.
no.
I had somebody actually reach out to me earlier this week, and it was an unknown person messaged me on Facebook, said, "Hey, I read your name, and when I was reading your name, I just felt this energy, and I really want to read you. Is there a way that we can set that up?" And I still haven't replied because I'm still just, I don't know that I want to. What if she sees all the demons that are around me and the angels and fighting and like all the chaos that's happening?
Yeah, dude, we got to have some fun in life. I mean, now necessarily, you probably, I imagine there's a line that eventually, if you cross it, you're like, oh, I kind of didn't want to go this far. But we are having a psychic on, and I was thinking, I don't really want to put him on the spot, but he has 400 successful reads. Now, what does that mean? I have no clue, but that's kind of the point of the show. I kind of go at it from, I know a little bit, but not really a lot. So I kind of want to channel what the crowd would be thinking, so I can ask those type of questions, if that makes sense. But I don't think I'm going to put him on the spot and say, read me. But if he's like, yeah, man, like, this stuff that happened when you were 7, it was crazy. And there was this, your teacher was named Miss Shaddles, and like this, and I'll be like, whoa, okay. But
What? So where can people see Creepalachia?
Yeah, so we're on YouTube. Heavy. I post, at least 2 videos a day. We try to do 2 full interviews a week, but we do a lot of short clips, a lot of reels. So you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on TikTok. We got audio only on Apple and Spotify. We're building a really good size following on Facebook. I think we've crossed 2,200 followers in a month. This Natalie
On
Cochran
Facebook
trial
strong.
has been.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. This Natalie Cochran trial has been crazy. It is. We've done probably. I interviewed a juror today. Like literally, we're interviewing everyone almost involved with the whole thing after, because it was in Beckley and it was a national case. So it's really building our following too. But we're also getting all these people that are cryptid fans, all these people that are tarantula addicts, all these people that are,
I think there's overlap there with true crime and tarantulas and creepy stories. There's overlap, and people are multifaceted.
Yeah. And I'm trying to find a niche of like, okay, well, what is there not? Now, there are some Appalachian influencers that are very good. You are one of them. There's a bunch of people doing some really good stuff. And I say, well, let's blend what I love with Mr. Ballin and turn that into an interview format in Appalachia. And I'm also never going to hide my accent. And I'm going to tell people about my experience and kind of, have this fun environment to really sit down and have no time limit. Like, I'll sit down and talk to, I sat down and talked to a guy about spelunking for almost 3 hours. And he told me about there's 50-mile cave systems under Lewisburg. And he's like, yeah. And then I'm like, well, how do y'all name them? And he's like, well, literally, like, you just look at the map, you see what's not on the map, and you walk to a wall that you think there's more there. And then you get to name the section you find. So he has videos of this happening. His name's Chris Collin, but and he told me about Bat Boy being originated in Lost World Caverns, which is in West Virginia, and I lost my mind with excitement. So there's just things like that. And he told me about all these crazy situations, like the Nutty Putty Cave, when this person crawled in this cave and got stuck in this terrifying, and then they just seal up the cave and they put a memorial there, and like he's just there inside the mountain. Like all kinds of stuff like that just pop up that I'm just not even expecting.
That's another thing I will never
fun.
do is caving. No thanks.
The urban exploring's cool. I kind of like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, I'd love to find somebody that just goes in old buildings, so that's a good idea for a show. I'm sure there's a bunch of those in Appalachia. But yeah, see, I thought the same thing too, and I thought the same thing about tarantulas, but this helps too. He's like, yeah, like if you're an inexperienced caver, here's what we would do. You would join this group. It's called something. I can't remember what the group's called, but and then like we would let you borrow equipment. We'd take you to these easy paths just so you can see how beautiful it is, and then you can work your way up. And so that's kind of, it's kind of deleting that misconception of like, yeah, it sounds terrifying to get stuck in this certain position, but there's a reason they got stuck. You're not supposed to be there. So,
Right.
So yeah.
As with anything,
Yeah,
if you
it's
do
fun-
it correctly
fun.
and safely, then there's still some risk, but not
Yeah,
as
I'm
much,
keeping
maybe.
my hobbies.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm good.
here.
I'm still not going to do it.
Well,
Yeah. And
it's nice that you're
go ahead.
platforming, individuals, and these are people that have tried probably sharing these stories with other people and been discounted, or get the eye roll, trying to tell you that at the bank.
Orbs in your room. You were just tripping
Yeah,
balls.
I mean it's nice that you're going to that you're able and willing and interested enough to platform individuals that that have interesting experiences. Because in Appalachia. I think our experience is what sets us apart of the world.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
yeah, for sure. And it's not like, you have all these podcasts, the celebrity podcasts that are built on having celebrities, which is great. But obviously, there's not going to be really many celebrities to come in my basement in Beckley, West Virginia, and
Right.
talk shop. So I think having people with experiences like that is so interesting on the eerie side of things. Like the orb thing, we talked for like an hour, or is an hour 20 minutes or something, and it was so captivating on how he laid out exactly what happened. But then it carried into like his dad passed away of cancer. And he said, and it happened shortly before this. So he was like, and then we get into like, what's the meaning of life? And he's saying, I like to think that my dad was a jokester, and I like to think that he just came in and then just started messing with me one morning because he knew my buddy stayed. And, there's beautiful things that arise like that that
Yeah.
I'm not even expecting to pop out. And there's so many things ahead. Like we just did a story on Fright Nights, West Virginia, which is a haunted house, really big haunted house that you can visit every October here in southern West Virginia. And just hearing them about their early days to how they built it up. We're having another one on that's from, more northern of the state that's coming on here later in a couple months, or this month, I think. We're having Trans Allegheny on. A guy named Copperhead's going to come and tell me about his 9.5 years of giving tours.
I got a buddy who hunts
at the
ghosts. You should hook him up.
Perfect. Yes, we'll have the whole collective on. Like that's what I'm saying. Like we can accommodate multiple people. I had people come in here and told me about the time they wrecked in this ravine and then got carried out of it somehow and don't know how it happened. And then we talked about religion for like 55 minutes.
I get it.
So it just, you know what I mean? It's so much. And then, the guy coming in telling me about his robbery, he had security camera footage of it. And he looks like freaking John Wick. He comes up, you see this daggone muzzle flash, and then he pulls out, and then his flashes start happening. And I'm like, what is going on? This is so far from my life.
It's like an action movie.
Yeah, dude. And I know this dude. Like I followed him during the documentary, so it's so captivating. And so I'll just come up with ideas like that, and we have all kind. Like we got someone coming in to give us full Appalachian lore on murder ballads. Which, if you don't know what that is, it's basically songs that used to be written about certain crimes back in the day.
Okay.
They'd be like, Susie was killed by old man Johnny, or
Well,
whatever.
there's
Just some
dark
kind of
meanings
old school
behind like
song.
Ring Around the Rosie and things like that, so I can understand that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, and she's going to do a live performance. Her name's Cassidy Dickens, and there's all kinds of fun things. I'm trying to have 2 people a week. I don't know how long it's going to last, but so far we're doing pretty good. So we're
That's
booked
awesome.
through April. Yeah.
That's exciting. We're looking forward to seeing it, seeing the channel grow. We're looking forward to seeing Mothman. man, if you need any hands, man, holler at us. We'll be happy to try to help, accommodate any way that we can. Yeah, because we're excited about, man, the region has a lot of things happening for it. You know, there's a lot of activity and it's all churning, and a lot of us are just anxious to see what's going to come out of it. And I think a lot of that's excitement.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Absolutely.
Shoot you. Yeah, man. That's the big thing is like, let's all support each other, man. If you're a filmmaker out there and you're kind of bitter, like, why ain't they hiring me? Their work sucks, this and that. Please examine your inner self and realize that these are my peers and we need to come together and support each other. There's enough work for everybody. I refer people all the time. And I just feel like if we all do that and we support each other and support our efforts and share this documentary that you may not care about necessarily, or share this artwork that you're not really concerned with right now. Like I personally fight a lot of that stuff, and I make sure to be overly positive and supportive of people. Yep. I give to the GoFundMe's and the Kickstarters and all the things because we all need each other. So yeah,
I can't think of a better way to wrap up this podcast episode with.
That's
that
great
was a great
advice.
outro. That's
great
man.
Advice. Well, JD, again, we appreciate you coming on.
Thank
you. We look forward to seeing Creepalachia continue to grow. I'll make sure to plug it here at the end. And is there anything that you want to say to everybody before we tune out?
I love what you all are doing. The Appalachian Creative Podcast is so fun. Just getting to hear stories. It's hard to get to hear from other creatives. So actually, I realized Noah was on your all show. So Noah's actually going to be in the Mothman Prophets. So there's a lot of correlation to what we do. And yeah, I mean, really, I'd love for people to listen to the show, but more importantly, like when you think no one cares about your work, just, dive into it and know that your reality isn't reality. And if you put your heart into it, you're going to make something that people will appreciate. And don't let people tell you that you're from West Virginia, you can't do this. Whatever this is, you can do it. So I just see it as more of an opportunity to shine in a smaller pond. That's
right
kind of what I would say.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, JD.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll be seeing you. Hopefully we can have you on again whenever we're ready to start marketing Mothman Prophets.
Heck yeah. I appreciate y'all.
Hey, thanks
All
again.
right. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.